This picture is going viral with Bria Hartley with the sinister grin, right? This malevolent look that's on her face right now, clearly smiling after injuring Sophie Cunningham, man.
Some images tell more than 1,000 words, but every once in a while, a single frame can ignite a firestorm. That's exactly what happened when cameras caught Bria Hartley with what looked like a grin just moments after Sophie Cunningham collapsed in agony. The timing was chilling. Sophie was being carried away, clutching her knee, and yet the freeze frame that spread online wasn't of concern. It was of Hartley smiling. To fans, that moment was more than just bad optics. It became the symbol of frustration, anger, and suspicion that defined one of the most controversial nights in recent WNBA history. And here's the twist. What started as heartbreak ended as one of the greatest comebacks the league has ever seen. But the story behind it is far more complicated than a picture.
Sophie Cunningham, let's be clear here. Sophie Cunningham was targeted. Let's be very, very clear here. But Sophie Cunningham was flat out targeted by a dirty, dirty player.
It was supposed to be a routine play. Hartley drove toward the basket with defenders crowding her lane. Sophie Cunningham slid over, bracing for contact. What followed silenced the arena. Hartley's momentum carried into Sophie's right leg, and within seconds, Cunningham was on the floor, clutching her knee. Fans gasped as she tried to rise but couldn't. Trainers rushed in, teammates huddled, and the entire Fever bench held its breath. It wasn't just an injury. It was the emotional gut punch of seeing one of their toughest players in visible pain when the team was already running on fumes.
Oh, and Cunningham is down. My goodness. Should be. Scary moment as we went to commercial. Sophie Cunningham hit the floor hard, and she is being helped off the floor, heading back to the locker room.
If the play itself had been the only headline, perhaps the conversation would have been different. But when replays rolled and cameras caught Hartley with a fleeting grin, everything shifted. That image, her smiling as Cunningham was helped off the court, was clipped, shared, and reposted within minutes. To Indiana Fever fans, it looked like mockery. To neutral viewers, it raised a bigger question. Was this just unfortunate timing, or did fans see it as something more? The smirk didn't just add fuel to the fire. It became the fire itself.
Fever fans wake up pissed off today. Pissed off. Not only are we getting assaulted, but they're smiling about it. This is the 6th time they've smiled, laughed, and cheered on our Indiana Fever players getting assaulted, getting injured, and it pisses me off.
Social media erupted. Posts accused the league of negligence. Fans demanded a review, and hashtags calling for accountability trended through the night. Some voices insisted it was an accident, but many others pointed to Hartley's history and argued this was part of a larger pattern. Some even wrote that if the same collision had happened to one of the league's biggest stars, the game would have stopped instantly. Either way, the outrage wasn't just about the injury. It was about the perception that players like Sophie weren't being protected, and that referees had allowed yet another dangerous moment to slip by unchecked.
Bria Hartley deserves zero benefit of the doubt. And Sophie Cunningham's family not too happy.
What made the night even more emotional was that Sophie's own family joined the chorus of criticism. Her sister Lindsay openly questioned the officiating, frustrated that referees penalize players for speaking out instead of addressing inconsistent calls. Her mother Paula expressed her anger too, though she later removed her post. Their reactions weren't calculated PR statements. They were raw, immediate, and deeply human responses to seeing a loved one in pain. For many Fever fans, those words validated their own anger, showing that this wasn't just about basketball. It was about fairness, safety, and respect. And just when emotions were boiling over, the spotlight turned back to Hartley's reputation. For Bria Hartley, the collision wasn't judged in isolation. Fans quickly resurfaced old clips of her most physical moments: a hair pull during a rebound, a scuffle that escalated, and other aggressive plays that had sparked tension in past games. While none of those incidents alone defined her, together they painted a picture of a player who has often played on the edge. By the time the smile was added to the mix, the narrative had already been written in the public's mind. This wasn't just one unlucky moment, it was part of a bigger pattern.
Making all kind of excuses to say that Bria Hartley is not a dirty player. Let me tell y'all something, man. Come on in here. Come on in here, man. Let me tell y'all something. If it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, eats like a duck, it's a duck, man. Come on, man. She is the dirtiest player in the WNBA right now, winning the trophy. All right? Winning the trophy for it. Don't sit here and try to tell me Bria Hartley is not a dirty player.
For the Fever, the timing could not have been worse. Already missing Caitlin Clark with a groin issue, Ari McDonald with a broken foot, and Sydney Colson with a torn ACL, the team was scraping together rotations just to survive. Losing Sophie, their emotional leader and defensive spark, felt like the final blow. Fans feared the season had collapsed right there on the hardwood. From the outside looking in, it seemed like Indiana had no gas left in the tank. But then came the moment that flipped everything.
You can tell Bria Hartley, in my opinion, she launched herself into her knee. She did. And I've seen some of the reaction online. And guys, it's despicable. It really is. There's a lot of people celebrating this injury. And guess what? You can imagine who it is. It's members of the old WNBA fandom, the ones that root for Paige Beckers and Angel Reese and Asia Wilson and all the usual damn.
Another layer of frustration came from how the moment was handled in real time. The referees didn't even stop to review the collision. To fans, that silence spoke louder than any whistle. The lack of review wasn't just disappointing, it was infuriating. It fueled the belief that dangerous plays were being overlooked and that stars weren't receiving the protection they deserved. How could a moment this big not even deserve a second look? That single question kept the outrage boiling long after the final buzzer.
Listen, Sophie Cunningham was targeted, y'all. I'm telling you right now, Sophie Cunningham was targeted by Bria Hartley, and it just is what it is. It is what it is. I don't want to sit here and play games and act like, you know, she wasn't. She was targeted by Bria Hartley, and that's just the fact of the matter. And people can act like it's not all they want. I told you guys this girl was a dirty player, and that's all she did today was show how dirty she is.
Inside the Fever's locker room at halftime, the energy was heavy. Sophie had been ruled out. The scoreboard showed a 21-point deficit, and even the most optimistic players knew the situation looked grim. Coach Stephanie White admitted later that her first thought watching Sophie fall was pure panic. Yet in that despair, seeds of resilience were quietly being planted. The players faced a choice. Let this night define their collapse or fight to write a different ending. That different ending began with Kelsey Mitchell. Up to that point, she had been quiet, with only a handful of points. But something shifted in her after halftime. The urgency of the moment, the absence of teammates, and the weight of the season seemed to combine into fuel. Shot after shot, drive after drive, Mitchell began to attack. By the end of the night, she had delivered one of the most stunning second halves in league history, and that was only the beginning.
This is Bria Hartley right here, grinning from ear to ear with Sophie Cunningham smiling. I mean, that's despicable, folks. There's no other way to look at it. Yeah, how about this right here? That chick grinning after Caitlin Clark got slammed to the ground. And then this chick. I mean, really? Unbelievable.
Mitchell scored 34 points in the second half alone, finishing with 38, a career high. She drilled threes with confidence, slashed through defenders, and sank free throws under pressure. In overtime, she carried the team single-handedly, scoring Indiana's first 10 points and leaving Connecticut stunned. It wasn't just her numbers. It was the way she did it, with an assassin's mentality that electrified the crowd and silenced doubters. Every shot didn't just add points, it added belief. While the spotlight naturally gravitated toward Kelsey Mitchell's scoring explosion, the foundation of Indiana's comeback was quietly built in the trenches by Aaliyah Boston. Night after night, Boston is the anchor that holds everything together, and this game was no different. Against one of the league's most physical front courts, she battled with a level of poise and resilience that rarely gets enough credit. She finished with a double-double, 14 points and 13 rebounds. But those numbers barely scratched the surface of her impact. Each time Connecticut threatened to shut down Indiana's momentum, Boston was there to snatch a rebound, redirect the offense, or throw her weight into defensive rotations that denied the Sun easy points. Her presence was the calming force amid chaos, reminding her teammates that no deficit was insurmountable. When a team loses multiple guards to injury, there's often a scramble just to get the ball up the court. But Odyssey Sims stepped into the spotlight like she had been waiting for this role all season. With Cunningham gone and Caitlin Clark still sidelined, Sims became the unexpected floor general Indiana desperately needed. She didn't just run plays, she injected tempo, attacked open lanes, and brought an aggression that forced Connecticut onto its heels. Her 19 points and 7 assists told the story of someone who not only scored but also orchestrated. Every bounce pass, every fearless drive into traffic carried the message, "We're not done yet." And that mindset turned what should have been an impossible situation into a believable comeback. Sometimes a game turns on a single shot, one that fans will remember long after the box score fades. For Indiana, that moment came from Lexi Hull. She wasn't the star of the night in terms of scoring, but when the Fever needed one dagger to cement the upset, she rose with unshakable confidence. Standing in the corner during overtime, with the shot clock ticking down and defenders closing fast, Hull let it fly. The ball dropped cleanly through the net, and the entire Fever bench erupted as if they had just won the championship. Fans online immediately called it the shot of the season. Hull's triple will never match Mitchell's stat line, but in the narrative of resilience, it was the exclamation point that turned doubt into destiny. Victories are measured on the scoreboard, but the soul of this win was captured in the locker room. After the final buzzer, Coach Stephanie White stood in front of her team with a voice heavy with emotion. She didn't talk about points or stats. She talked about grit, about never being counted out, about the value of staying together when everything is against you. She reminded them that this wasn't just another win. It was living proof of who they were as a group. The players listened, some still catching their breath, others fighting back tears, but all of them knowing they had just accomplished something unforgettable. Even while sidelined, Caitlin Clark's shadow loomed large over the night. Fans wondered if she would have made a difference had she been on the floor, but Clark found her own way to leave an imprint. On social media, as her teammates celebrated in Connecticut, she posted just 3 words: battled, battled, battled. Short, simple, but powerful. Those words carried weight because they reflected everything fans had just witnessed. From the largest deficit of the season to the greatest comeback in franchise history, Indiana had battled. Even in absence, her leadership echoed. Those 3 words reminded fans that she still defined the heart of this team. Perhaps the most telling moment of all came from Sophie Cunningham herself. Just hours after being helped off the court, her future uncertain, she chose to celebrate her teammates' heroics. She tweeted, "Kelsey freaking Mitchell." That unfiltered reaction carried a raw honesty that struck fans deeply. Cunningham could have wallowed in frustration about her own setback, but instead, she made the night about someone else's triumph. It was a testament to her leadership and her character. For her teammates, seeing Sophie put pride for them above her own pain added another layer of motivation. While the Fever celebrated, the outside world continued to buzz. Clips of Mitchell's scoring spree trended alongside the infamous Hartley smirk. The conversation was split down the middle, one side praising Indiana's resilience, the other demanding answers from the league about officiating and player safety. Debate shows picked up the story. Articles were written overnight, and WNBA Twitter turned the game into a war of narratives. In the days that followed, the discussion only grew louder. Analysts debated whether Hartley deserved suspension, with some calling the collision reckless and others defending it as incidental contact. What no one could deny, however, was that the image of the smile had already done its damage. In an era where perception spreads faster than facts, that single frame cemented Hartley's role as the villain of the night. And the league faced pressure not just to review the incident, but to consider broader questions about how stars are protected. Looking back, it's hard to believe how quickly the narrative flipped. What began as a night of despair, Sophie collapsing, fans outraged, playoff hopes seemingly gone, transformed into one of the greatest comebacks the Fever have ever delivered. Kelsey Mitchell's 38-point masterpiece, Boston's dominance, Sims' leadership, Hull's clutch triple, and White's inspiring words rewrote the ending. The same night that exposed questions about accountability also revealed Indiana's resilience in its purest form. The Fever's victory wasn't just about climbing the standings. It was about proving to themselves and to everyone watching that no setback could define them. Cunningham's injury still looms, Clark's return remains uncertain, and the road ahead is far from easy. But after that comeback, one thing is clear. This team refuses to be counted out. They turned one of the ugliest moments of the season into a statement win. And in doing so, they showed that adversity doesn't break them. It sharpens them. The night will always be remembered for two images, Sophie in pain and Hartley's smirk. But just as powerful is the third image. Indiana storming back to celebrate a win no one thought possible. And so the question remains, what happens next? Should Hartley face suspension? Will the WNBA finally address player safety? Or will this controversy fade while the Fever's comeback becomes legend? One thing's for certain, this game was bigger than basketball. It was about resilience, unity, and the power of refusing to quit. Now it's your turn. Do you believe Hartley's play deserves punishment? And how should the league protect its stars moving forward? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this debate is just getting started. Don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the biggest stories shaking the WNBA. This story isn't over, and neither is our coverage. We'll see you in the next one.